in Bill O'Reilly, host of the No Spin News and author of the upcoming book, Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Gotcha. Nice to meet you in cyberspace.
So I think that Gavin Newsom certainly wants this to be, Newsom v. Trump. I'm not sure that's how President Trump sees it, but in your estimation, who right now is winning the messaging war on this, the Democrats or President Trump?
Well, I don't think there's been much movement. President Trump has the MAGA people, and I say the majority of Americans don't want unsupervised foreign nationals running around. A 10-point plurality. I don't think there's any movement here. When you see people with foreign flags waving it, cursing police, doing stuff like that, that alienates many, many Americans who are non-ideological. So if I had to bet, I would say that the protests and the far left behind the protests are kind of losing ground.
And that's a good thing, right? I mean, the American people can pretty much come together over the idea that this kind of lawlessness is a really bad idea for us, both politically, legally, and morally, wouldn't you say?
Sure, and it's an obvious statement that almost everybody makes, but they don't really understand that there is an element in this country that wants to overthrow the government. They're anarchists, Antifa, those people. Got a lot of money and they're organized and they can mobilize quickly. I don't think there's that many people in Los Angeles. I thought the crowds would be bigger, but nobody wants to go to downtown LA anyway. It's a pit. And I don't think this is the kind of protest that is going to take on a mass appreciation.
I think that's a really good point you make. I keep thinking about, people are comparing this to the Black Lives Matter movement and rallies and all of the mayhem that was caused then. But you're really not seeing any comparison in terms of the numbers taking to the streets. And I wonder if that's because, with BLM, there was this feeling that, nobody likes disorder or violence in the streets. But it's very hard to disagree with the statement. I think we all agree Black Lives Matter. The cause itself felt very righteous. Whereas here, the cause is about, it seems almost undeniably like it's about illegal immigrants, but also that they're coming to the defense of people who are violent, who are arrested for violent crimes. What do you think about that comparison between these two moments?
Well, there were a lot of far-left people that came to the aid of the looters and the people who caused massive destruction after George Floyd. The difference is that there was a constituency which was angry, the African-American community, and that constituency provided numbers. There's no constituency here for illegal immigration. It is a fringe movement. So the numbers aren't as big. And then you get the political element whereby the powers that be in California remain befuddled. I mean, when you're the police chief of Los Angeles saying, we're overwhelmed, which is what he said. I think it was on night 2 of the protests. We're into night 4 now. What do you think the President of the United States is going to do when he despises this movement? He despises the far left. He despises the people that spit at ICE agents. What do you think he's going to do? All right, so he's moving in the federal authority to protect the federal buildings, and he doesn't believe that Newsom and Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, will enforce the law. And I don't believe that either. I don't think either of them have the capacity to do that, or do they want to do that? Because they're playing to their far left base. And you can see it with Newsom. He wants to run for president in 28. He's trying to consolidate himself as a left-wing martyr. He wants to be arrested by Trump. Trump would be foolish to arrest him. There's no crime. Okay? But Newsom would be more than happy to be taken into custody with handcuffs. That's what he wants, rather than working with the president to quell any kind of potential violence.
So the president did say, sort of jokingly, that he thinks it would be a good idea if Tom Homan arrested Gavin Newsom. Do you think that he's seriously considering that, or do you think that he was sort of joking?
I hope not. I mean, look, President Trump is a strong man, not a strong man weightlifting, but he's governing as a strong man, a no-nonsense president who doesn't have to run again, who made some promises about immigration that he's going to keep.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.